Good afternoon, class. My name is Elizabeth Giles, and today I will be presenting on the article Social Relationships, Social Support, and Patterns of Cognitive Aging in Healthy, High-Functioning Older Adults, MacArthur Studies of Successful Aging by Teresa Seaman, Tina Lucignolo, Marilyn Albert, and Lisa Berkman. Below, I included a picture just to introduce myself to the class. I found this fitting since we're already in the month of October. This is a picture of my nieces and myself last Halloween. So the aim of this study was to examine the relationship of social ties and social support to patterns associated with cognitive aging. The researchers studied cognitive performance in a high-functioning cohort, and they did this by incorporating data from the MacArthur Studies of Successful Aging. So what they did was there's a total of over 4,000 participants. The researchers subsampled the participants based on their cognitive functioning and then only used the top 1/3 for their study. Research took place over a 7.5-year span, beginning in the year 1988 and concluding in 1996, in an attempt to discover factors that play a role in individual differences in terms of old age and cognitive decline. So the authors found those who reported a greater frequency of emotional support had significantly better cognitive functioning. There were no significant gender differences. However, I thought it was interesting that more men reported having a lot of social ties, whereas women were found to be more heavily involved in group-based activities. So there were a couple of interesting findings in this study. Firstly, better cognitive functioning was found to be associated with being unmarried. This is very interesting because it is sort of contradictory to other studies that generally find the presence of a spouse to predict better health. Secondly, better cognitive functioning was found in those reporting demands and conflict among their social network members. The authors explained that this may be due to the fact that those with better cognitive skills engage in more frequent and more complex social interactions. A couple of things that I liked about this study is the large test group. There was a total of 1,189 participants involved in this study, which I thought was a pretty large amount of participants. Secondly, the fact that it was a longitudinal study, which made it very beneficial for the researchers to be able to observe the patterns of change among this cohort over time. And lastly, another advantage that I found was that the researchers controlled for secondary variables such as age, education, income, ethnicity, health status, the level of physical activity, depressive symptoms, and self-efficacy beliefs, which could have affected or influenced the research. A couple of limitations I found in this study was that this is definitely not a study that is representative of a broader population for a number of reasons. One being that the participants involved in this study were solely between the ages of 70 to 79, so it didn't represent people in their 80s or 90s, etc. Secondly, some of the participants failed to do their follow-up assessments and interviews, so they had some problems with missing data. This was rare, but it did occur. And lastly, the authors only used the top 1/3 of participants who are considered to be in high cognitive functioning, which is not very representative of the entire population as a whole. Another limitation is the study analyzed levels of social integration, yet this study didn't look into or assess the frequency of these interactions nor the quality of these interactions. I found a couple of recent articles in the media that pertain to this topic. The first one is called 5 Reasons Seniors Should Volunteer Their Time. It's from placeformom.com. And basically the article is talking about how volunteering can help maintain healthy cognitive functioning and also prevent isolation and depression among the older adult population. A couple of other reasons that they give for volunteering are that it helps to bridge the generation gap, and also because it could help change the way that society thinks and views the older adult population. The second article I found is from the University of Queensland in Australia. It's called Social Groups Ward Off Age-Related Mental Decline. It's a study they conducted of over 3,000 participants, and they found that those who took part in social group activities actually had reduced mental decline and memory loss in comparison to those who did not take part in social group activities. So these two articles definitely have a lot of similarities in terms of the importance of social ties in older adulthood. Lastly, I felt obliged to include a TED Talk. I love TED Talks. The guest speaker is a Time magazine reporter and an author of several books. His name is Jeffrey Kluger, and he is speaking about the importance of sibling bonds and sibling relationships throughout one's lifespan. In this talk, Mr. Kluger speaks about how a sibling relationship is unlike any other social connection that you will experience in your lifetime. I definitely agree with this because a sibling is somebody that you grow up with, you learn from. If you're lucky, you grow old together. So in that sense, this bond is very profound and going to be very different from any other relationship that you have in your lifetime. And in terms of future research, this would definitely be an important subject to look into and study, just to see if there are any possible effects that this type of bond has on cognition in old age. In terms of future research, I think that we should look into marital status and how it affects one's health in old age, especially since we have a few studies that are contradictory to one another. We should also look into cognitive decline among socially isolated individuals. I just personally wonder how detrimental this could actually be on cognition in older adulthood. And lastly, we should look into environmental characteristics and what impact they have on cognitive function in old age. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email is gilese@usc.edu.